Okay, welcome to the Direct Snap. It is September 2nd, 2024, and week one, it's in the books. It's over with. And we had some really crazy matchups go on. A lot of stuff stick out to us. We have a lot of stuff to cover. This show could really be like 4 hours long, but we're going to try and condense it down to about like a 1 hour show. But anything that sticks out to you you want to talk about first?
I think that we can go ahead and start with the premier matchup of week one, and that was Clemson, Georgia. It was a not-so-neutral site game in Atlanta.
Yep.
It was listed as a neutral site, but that's Georgia's backyard. We all know what that is. And a lot of people had this game being closer. I predicted 41-17. I thought Clemson's offense was going to be a little bit better than what they did. But Georgia ended up winning this game 34-3. It was an absolute massacre. Georgia was better on every side of the ball. They won every single position battle. And this game really just wasn't close. There wasn't a whole lot of scoring in the first half, but it was clear to see that Clemson was really just outmatched throughout this entire game. And Georgia, they don't look like the world beaters of years past, but they certainly look really good again this year.
Yeah, man. Clemson, it's like I said, it's you can't really get elite without using the portal. You know, if Dabaswity and company at Clemson satisfied winning 8 games every year, then sure, stay where you're at. But if you want to elevate, you have to make a change. I'm not saying make a coaching change. You know, Dabaswity's a great coach, but man, if you really want to get elite, you got to start utilizing assets around you that are available to you. You know, FCS and stuff, it's harder to use the portal, but here at this level, you can use the portal, and they're just not using it, and this is kind of what happens, you know. An elite team like Georgia's gonna blow you out.
Yeah. One team that has certainly taken advantage of the transfer portal and everything that it has to offer is the Texas Longhorns with their skill position units. What did you think of that game against Colorado State?
Man, it's like kind of backs up what all the Texas fans are saying. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, to lay a goose egg on anyone is pretty good. I mean, that's like you can't, even FCS teams, which Colorado State's not one. Even FCS teams, it's hard to lay a goose egg. And a lot of high flying offense. They use the portal a lot. Picked up that big receiver from Bama, Isaiah Bond, and it's looking like this week Texas' performance and then Michigan's performance this week is like, man, they play next week in week 2, and it's really looking like Texas is going to have a pretty strong edge. Granted, it's at Michigan, but man, they played a lot better than Michigan.
Yeah, and that's an 11 o'clock game, so it's not like it's a night game where it's going to be crazy rowdy. Mm-hmm. And you still have a home field advantage, but it's just not the same having an 11 o'clock game right there.
Yeah, you still have the biggest stadium in college football, not necessarily the loudest because it's really wide, but there's over 100,000 people cheering against you. So
certainly it'll be crazy.
Yep.
And how about a shocker game? Idaho hanging with Oregon throughout.
Man, I didn't hear one person predicting this to happen. It's Idaho. I didn't even know much about Idaho. I still don't know much about Idaho. But dude, it was concerning. I don't know if it was the third or fourth quarter, but they were within like a touchdown. They had like a touchdown late, I think in the third or fourth quarter, and it got like a little scary for a second. I was like, dude, they get a pick 6 right here, and there could be the upset of the century.
Well, they were within 3 in the fourth quarter.
Oh, really?
It was 14-17.
That O-line, Oregon's O-line, major point of concern. And Dylan Gable did the best he could with that O-line, which he did good. 380 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
Not bad.
Great throwing the ball, no interceptions, no turnovers.
Yep. But there was also only a handful of 20-plus yard passes. Like I think it was like 2 or 3. So a lot of them were just kind of like, the line collapsed, O-line collapsed, I just got to throw it and get it out of there.
Yep.
But a lot of concern.
Oregon fans watching this, you heard it from Oklahoma fans the entire offseason. They all love Dylan Gabriel. He's a great leader. He will protect the ball and play very solid for you. But you're not going to get a lot of the deep ball from him. He's not super accurate with the deep ball, and he doesn't throw it a lot. So you're going to get a lot of short to medium passes, a lot of check down, a lot of just smart football to be able to manage the game from him.
For sure.
Next up, an upset that I picked but did not happen, Penn State at West Virginia.
Yeah.
I expected more from the Mountaineers in this game. I expected them to at least keep it close, but Penn State proved to be the better team in just about every area in this one.
Mm-hmm. Like I said with the prediction, I said if Drew Aller plays the way he did last year with this game, that I think they're going to win pretty handedly. But if he struggles like he did late season, it might be different. But he played pretty well. He's not even on the Heisman watch at all, really. But NFL scouts are really bullish on him. The NFL scouts love Drew Aller, so just that tells you a lot of stuff about what his at least potential is. And yeah, going into West Virginia, it was a daytime game. I know West Virginia at night's pretty daunting as an OU fan, but yeah, I mean they got it done pretty convincingly too. And West Virginia's not a slouch either. They're in the middle of the pack Big 12 team, maybe a little lower, but a lot of people had them as their dark horse in the Big 12 as well. So it's a good win for Penn State for sure.
Yep, another Big 12 team that had a little bit better luck this last weekend. The Oklahoma State Cowboys knocking off the FCS powerhouse South Dakota State.
Yep.
What'd you think when you were watching that game?
I didn't get a lot of it in. I think it was a 2:30 game, wasn't it? So
I think it was 1.
A 1:30 or 1 o'clock. I didn't watch a lot of it, but it's a solid win. Of course, I want to obviously knock OSU because I'm an OU fan, but beating the best FCS team, or at least top 3 FCS team, it's not like something to slouch about, and did it pretty handily too. 20-44 is pretty good, and I think they struggled a little bit early, but I didn't watch a whole lot of it. But they took care of business pretty well, and I think they'll be a contender for the Big 12. If there was like a struggle this game, I wouldn't have really. I would have been like, oh, they're going to be like middle of the pack, but they did pretty well.
Yeah, it was a quality win. South Dakota State had a 29-game winning streak coming into this one.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And they were the 2-time FCS defending champs. And it's still FCS. You should expect to win this as an Oklahoma State fan or a player or whatever. But it was a quality win. OSU looked good on defense. They looked good on offense. I maybe would have liked to see a little bit more explosive plays, a little bit more of a dominating fashion for their defense, just because they are going against lesser than athletes at South Dakota State. But South Dakota State played really fundamental. They didn't beat themselves in this game, and OSU got a solid win with that.
Yep. Man, Miami, Florida happened. 41-17 is pretty crazy. I definitely didn't see that happening. I picked this to be just a good quality game, maybe even overtime. But man, Miami took control of this game. And Billy Napier, dude, if you don't go 500 this year, it's bad. You're in trouble, dude.
You think he's gone before midway point in the season?
I don't know, man. What year is it for him? I can't remember.
I think it's year 4.
Really? Shoot. Man, I don't know. I would like to give him at least the rest of this year, but I don't know. I don't know if he's in that much trouble. It is Miami, granted. They're pretty good, and obviously this proves that they're more legit. Going into Florida, going into the swamp's not not really.
It's a tough ask.
An easy thing. And the Miami player Cam Ward, after the game, he said that he played in the Pac-12, and those games were harder and louder than the swamp, kind of distant SEC, but. Granted, when you're blowing someone out, they're not going to be crazy loud. So it's loud. Like, he hasn't heard, a full Florida the Swamp, at night game. But, man, good win for Miami for sure.
Yeah. And, I think that with Florida, they play like Sanford or someone this week. Mm-hmm. But then they have Texas A&M here in like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep. And
if they don't win that Texas A&M game, I think you could look at Billy Napier being gone before the end of the season.
Yeah.
Starting the year off 1-2 or 2-2 whenever they play A&M, they're probably going to lose the last 6 of their games if this week was anything to expect. So you could be looking at Billy Napier being gone sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of A&M, Notre Dame went to the 12th man and got it done by 10 points, but still. A lot of people were predicting A&M to win this, which is kind of shocking. Just the AP poll, the disparity, 7 and 20 just seems, that's a big difference. But yeah, got it done by 10 points, which covered the spread, which is, pretty impressive going into A&M. But they look like they could be a contender. And obviously Notre Dame's schedule is not always the hardest. So winning this game, there's not much left on the schedule for them.
Yeah, Texas A&M just a few years ago in 2022 had that historic recruiting class.
Yeah.
And they just really have not put it out onto the field.
Yep.
They obviously have had a lot of guys leave in the transfer portal and other things, but they still are one of the most talented teams in the country.
They got all those a lot of 5 stars are still there.
A lot of 5 stars. They're loaded with 4 stars also. They're easily a top 5 most talented team in the country. And they just haven't put it on the field. They got a new head coach in the offseason, Mike Elko.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching this game, and give credit where credit's due. Mike Elko has them looking a lot more organized.
Oh, yeah.
Like they know where they're supposed to be and are playing solid football rather than just having athletes running around.
Yeah.
But Notre Dame was still just the better team in this game. Marcus Freeman's done a great job there. They had a great defense to be able to go and give A&M a really tough time. They didn't score their first touchdown until the fourth quarter in that game, and A&M really just struggled moving the ball in that. But the Notre Dame offense also looked really solid. They controlled the line of scrimmage for offense and defense, and they were looking for a running back answer, and I think they found it in this game. Mm-hmm. Their running back had a great game, went off, and I think Notre Dame is going to be a team to watch later on in this college football season.
Yeah, I think it's obviously only week 1, first game of Mike Elko, but he just seems like he's a better fit than Jimbo. Just off of week 1 in the off season, it just seems better. Everything's running like an actual team, not just superstars, for sure.
Yeah, and one team that was certainly a lot of fun to watch. If you didn't stay up late to watch it, you were missing out. Was the Arizona football game. They played New Mexico this weekend and won 61-39. And Arizona, they're not a superstar team. They're not star-studded. They probably won't win the conference or make the college football playoff, just honestly, because they don't have a spectacular defense. But they may have the best wide receiver quarterback duo in college football this year. Noah Fafita going 39 of 51 for about 400 yards passing.
Man.
And 5 touchdowns, I think, in this game.
Yep. 4.
Yeah, he had a spectacular game. And his star wide receiver and childhood friend, McMillan, he had 10 catches, 304 yards, 4 touchdowns. Just a spectacular relationship there. And 2 spectacular playmakers that will put defenses in a nightmare scenario for the entire season. It'll be a lot of fun to watch them and see what they can continue to do.
Yeah, I unfortunately was not up for that game. I didn't get to see that when my dad saw it, and he said it was one of the best games he's ever seen. Just so many fireworks happening. So, Arizona, watch out, Big 12. Never know.
Yeah, what'd you think of the Colorado game?
I didn't get to see that one either. I didn't get it. Did you watch it at all?
I did watch that one.
What's your intel on it?
Ooh, Colorado. They've got a couple superstars, Travis Hunter and Shadir Sanders.
Of course.
But they are in trouble outside of those two. They were playing North Dakota State, and they ended up winning the game 31-26 with North Dakota State throwing a Hail Mary at the end and catching it on the 5-yard line.
Oh, my gosh. They
were 5 yards away from losing that game, and they play Colorado State this next week. I think Colorado will win. Shadir Sanders and Travis Hunter will win that game for them. But they could be in serious trouble this season. They did not look very good along the offensive or defensive line. They were making really bad penalties. They just weren't playing with a lot of fundamentals. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Colorado.
Yeah, I thought Colorado played a second game, but no, they didn't play in week 1. I guess they played just like week 0. Was this week 0? Was North Dakota State a week 0?
That was week 1. It was just on Thursday.
Okay, that's right. So I did catch that game.
For some reason, I thought they played. I thought that was week 0, and they played again. I was like, oh shoot, I don't even remember a Colorado game. But no, I saw it. I mean, you beat an FCS team, so like at least you got a win. But also, why are you struggling against an FCS team?
That's true.
But and then, dude, Sunday night. We had a good matchup.
We did.
All right, man. USC. I don't like Lincoln Riley. I don't want to say I hate Lincoln Riley.
They look good.
I don't look like Lincoln Riley, and he got it done in very good fashion. Going to Vegas, a big stadium,
and beating LSU, which is a middle tier SEC team.
I'd say middle to
maybe
top
higher.
tier.
Yeah, but man, their defense, as much as I don't like it, they got rid of Alex Grinch, and they are legit. The defense is legit. I watched the whole game, and holy cow, it got concerning. I was like, golly, they're actually really good. And so, Big
Miller Moss had a great game at quarterback.
It's like Lincoln Riley can't have a bad quarterback, you know? I mean, I'll give him his flowers. Lincoln Riley is the best OC I've ever seen.
He is.
Honestly.
I mean, like, if he would go take an offensive coordinator job anywhere else in the country, he may win 5 national championships.
Yeah. He's a legit coach for sure, you know? Watch out, Big Ten. He's got a really strong. As much as it's surprising, it's a fundamental team. It seems like they were so put together, which is such a drastic difference from other USC teams. Usually it's just a crazy offense, and the defense is just terrible. But they were just really well rounded, and it paid off, and they beat LSU.
Yeah, it certainly makes things interesting to be looking for later in the season.
For sure. All right, well, now looking at different conferences, what do you think about the Big Ten? It's kind of shaken up. Everyone kind of struggled besides Penn State.
You know, I watched all the games for the top contenders: Penn State, Oregon, Washington, Ohio State, Michigan, and none of them super impressed me. Mm-hmm. I think that Ohio State and Penn State probably look like they were the 2 top teams. Mm-hmm. Oregon, Michigan, those were certainly a couple of letdown games. Sure. And I expected to see a lot more from them. But, you know, the Big Ten does not look like it's as good as everyone is making it out to be. Sure. They've got all the talent. They've got the potential. But this weekend, it just didn't translate onto the field. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to seeing if these teams can make corrections, if they can build throughout the season to become the teams that we know that they can be. But right now, it looks like Ohio State and Penn State are leading the charge in the Big Ten. Yep. And we'll see how things go from there.
Yeah, Ohio State had a slow start, so that's kind of why they're being grouped with, you know, Oregon and Michigan, like, struggling. But I mean, if you look at the score, you know, you don't look at the box score, it's the total score, 52-6. I mean, that's a good win. I mean, it's obviously Akron, but I mean, but just struggling to start, like, you know, an elite program, the top tier programs, you don't struggle at the start. You come out good, and the only team I can really put in that category is really Georgia. I mean, they didn't ever struggle against Clemson.
And also with Ohio State, there were a lot of times where they were put in 3rd and medium, 3rd and long, 3rd and whatever. And Will Howard just struggled in that game. Mm-hmm. I remember watching him at K-State, and I was hoping to see something better from him at Ohio State, more development, just better play recognition. And you really just didn't see a whole lot of development. Yeah. And I think that if Ohio State can develop him into half of what C.J. Stroud was, half of these other superstar quarterbacks that they've had, then they will be a great team. Mm-hmm. But right now, I just haven't seen that. And you, like you said, you're playing Akron. You should beat them 70-0, 80-0.
You said game.
But they gave up 6 points, which that's going to happen. I'm not super upset with that. But the struggle from the offense was a little bit concerning against just a far inferior Akron defense.
Yep. And then also, man, Oregon and Michigan, holy cow. Those were both very disappointing games. I think Oregon was the most disappointing out of the whole Big Ten. But Michigan, I mean, Fresno State's a great Group of 5 team. I'll give them that. They're usually one of the top 5 or 3 Group of 5 teams. But, man, Michigan coming out of a national title and knowing you have Texas next week and you beat Fresno State by 10 points and it being close until the fourth quarter, it raises a lot of concern about that game next week.
You know, if it was a traditional 30-10 game, I'd probably be less concerned. But late in the fourth quarter, Michigan was up, 16-10?
Yeah, not much.
And Fresno State was driving and about to score a touchdown before they threw a pick 6.
Yep.
Like, this game was a lot closer than what this score is saying.
For sure.
And it just raises a lot of concerns playing Texas next week. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, but also honestly, I'm not gonna like ride the USC train, but I watched the whole game. They were legit against LSU, so that's just out there too. I'm not saying they're gonna be in the top 2 for the championship game, but I think they're gonna be right there.
Yeah, that's always possible. Lincoln Riley is always going to have a great offense, and I don't trust him. I don't, because you're always going to have that great offense, and you can knock off a team any week. But he hasn't proven that he can have a consistent defense either, which also means that you can lose any week. Mm-hmm. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what that team can do.
For sure. Michigan going against Texas, the SEC teams. It'll be an interesting Big 12 to SEC matchup. But then now looking at the SEC for this week, a slaughtering. I don't even know what to call it. But a lot of teams put up a lot of points against inferior teams.
Yeah.
Shout out to Auburn. They did it so badly. They shortened the quarters for the second half. Third and fourth quarter was shortened because they were just dogging. Was it Bama A&M? I think
Alabama A&M
was just rough, and a lot of teams did really good. But then also Florida A&M, kind of struggling there.
Yeah.
But what's your outlook on the SEC after week 1?
Oh man, the SEC is going to be a lot of fun, a lot of fireworks, a lot of talent all over the place. Vanderbilt had a great win against a team that a lot of people were projecting to compete in the ACC.
Vanderbilt.
They beat them in overtime, 34-27. And Virginia Tech was pulling off a late game comeback. They were down the entire game and trying to come back and win it. And it went to overtime, and Vanderbilt just still managed to pull it out. And that was a great game. That might have been one of the best games of week 1.
I really like Virginia Tech as a program. Like, the way their walkouts and everything. Like, it's a cool program.
It is.
And that team used to be really elite. I don't remember it personally, but a long time ago they used to be really good. And I want them to be good. They're just a fun team. But man, the worst SEC team beating you is crazy. And Vanderbilt isn't. I wouldn't even call them they're the worst SEC team, but they're like far below.
Oh, it's far
they're
down.
not even close. Like they're but man, that's crazy. And a lot of people are calling this upset too, and I just didn't see it at all. And then it happened. It's crazy.
Yeah. But the SEC is going to be a lot of fun this year. A lot of high-powered offenses. Mississippi State and Jeff Levy putting up 56 in their win against Eastern Kentucky this last weekend. I think that the SEC, I think you've got 2 clear favorites with Georgia and Ole Miss. But below them, you've got another 4 or 5 teams that can definitely compete and are trying to get college football playoff spots.
Mm-hmm. Man, this is like the most goose eggs I've ever seen, honestly, dude.
It's
Texas,
all over the place.
Texas, Bama, Ole Miss, Missouri, and Arkansas all had 50-plus points and 0. Arkansas had 70 against Arkansas Pine Bluff. I don't even know who that is. FCS, I guess.
Yep.
But man, a great week for the SEC besides just 2 teams. But South Carolina too kind of falls in that. Struggling against Old Dominion's a little rough, but they got the win.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it because I love Shane Beamer there, but South Carolina may be the worst SEC team this year.
Really? South Carolina Vanderbilt. I don't know if they played this year, but we got to see.
They do not.
They don't?
I looked it up on the schedule earlier.
Wanted to make sure.
I was really wanting them to see who was actually the bottom of the pack. Because I think that both teams will lose all of their SEC games. So I think that at the end of the season, if both teams lose every SEC game and neither of them are going to a bowl game at 3-9 or whatever, then we should just have a bowl game of Vanderbilt, South Carolina.
That'd be great.
And we should call it the worst of the worst bowl.
Yeah, but I mean, Vanderbilt got the Virginia Tech win, so if they don't,
that's true.
If they don't happen to change the bowl game format for that, which I think they should. I would give the edge to Vanderbilt beating Virginia Tech.
I think you'd have to.
Yep. Moving on, the Big 12, also a lot of fireworks.
Oh, yeah.
A couple statements, too. What's your feel on that?
Oh, the Big 12, it's so much fun. There's so much firepower. There's consistency almost throughout the entire league. Arizona State with a big win. Arizona with a big win. Utah with a big win. OSU with a solid win. UCF playing great this year. You got West Virginia, they lost, so that's kind of disappointing. Kansas with a big win. You got really good teams all over the place. They can all go and compete on any given weekend. And, I don't think that the Big 12 has even a top 6 or 7 team in the country this year.
Yeah.
I think that they've probably got 3 teams that are in that 8 to 15 range, though. And then I think you've probably got another 2 or 3 teams in that 20 to 30 range.
Yep.
And I think that these teams are all just going to battle throughout the season. And I think you could see a lot of them knock each other off and kind of knock everyone down a peg. I think that the Big 12 could be really similar to what the Pac-12 was the last few years, where the Pac-12 almost never made the college football playoff because everyone would just knock off everyone.
Yep.
And I think that you could definitely see that in the Big 12 this year.
Mm-hmm. I could definitely see that too as well. It's just so many teams are so close. But, I mean, dude, the most impressive, obviously Southern Utah. I don't even know if that's FCS. That might be Division II.
I don't know.
But, Goose Egg, Utah did 49-0. So that's probably the most, biggest, difference of a win. So, that looks like a really solid team just from the score. But, that can be whatever. But, yeah, so many teams are, bottom, top 25 that, are going to make a run. Honestly, I think the best performance was probably be OSU. I just really respect that one because top of FCS, they're legit teams and they're usually just so fundamentally sound, which is kind of hard to play against a lot of times. But so yeah, I think OSU probably came out the best in week 1.
I definitely think they had the best win.
Mm-hmm.
And then to go along with that, I think Arizona actually looked the best on offense. Yeah. And I was the most excited to watch Cam Rising get back out there for Utah. It's like his 7th or 8th year. Yeah. He's just battled injury after injury. He looked really good in his showing against Southern Utah this last week. And I'm excited to see what he does on the season.
For sure.
So what did you think about the ACC?
Man, dude, Miami's got to be my top dog in the ACC now by quite a large margin. I think... Yeah, Florida's not the best team, but they're still an SEC lower end team, which is still legit. And then going to there in the Swamp. The Swamp's a hard place to play, and putting 30 points on them, it's hard not to have Miami as my number 1 team in the ACC. Everyone else, Louisville against Austin something. I don't
Austin,
even know how to say
PA.
Austin, PA. Austin, PA is not the best, but also they play a lot of big teams and get blown out and stuff. So at least they're considered to be in that area.
Louisville's saying they're a traditional come get beat.
Yeah, which is better than being a Div 2 team at least.
I don't know about that.
Dude, Louisville putting a goose egg on them new and throwing 62 points on it is noteworthy. I think Louisville Miami play. I think week 4 or 5. I think it's coming up. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'm talking about Florida State. But Louisville looks pretty legit as well. Georgia Tech is also 2-0. One of them being Florida State. So Georgia Tech's also up there as well.
Oh man, Louisville and Miami do not play this year.
Is it Florida State that I'm talking about then? No, they do.
Oh, they do.
Shoot,
I missed it. They play October 19th.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. I think Louisville's right up there. Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and Louisville. And I think Louisville might even be better than maybe even Florida State.
Oh, that's not saying much after last week.
Yeah, it's not. But Georgia Tech 2-0 now. They beat Georgia State.
Give them credit.
Yeah.
And you know what? Georgia Tech gets to go play at Louisville in a couple weeks.
Oh, really? That'll be a solid matchup to kind of decide the pecking order of the ACC.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun to watch.
So that was this week of the Direct Snap. We gave you a little look at week 1, a little recap of all of that, and like and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later.
See you guys.